Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long. Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. The Eagles getting ready to take on the New York Football Giants. Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com will join us to kind of take a look back at the Washington game, the matchup for the Giant game. And we've been talking a lot this week. And tomorrow we're doing the State of the Eagles with Jeff Mosher, who will be on with us tomorrow. We've already kind of looked at some of these things. But, Andrew, I'll talk to you about what Jeff and I discussed during the State of the Eagles conversation, which is 7-7 is where the Eagles are. They are right in the playoff mix right now, maybe a little bit ahead of schedule where they are. What would you say is the state of the Eagles where they are currently?
Well, I think they're a team that nobody's going to want to face if they do sneak into the playoffs, Mike. I think they're starting to peak at the right time. I don't, you never want to make too much out of one game, but I will say that it looks like Jalen Hurts has finally turned the corner. Obviously, there are some plays you would like to have back, as you can say, for pretty much any game that he's played. But I think that he proved that he can make the throws that he needs to make. He made some throws that he hasn't really made all season long. So he's showing growth in those areas, and you'd like to see that positive development. Remember, he hasn't played in 3 weeks since that Giants game. So I think that he's one of the players that's that X factor that can sort of propel the Eagles into the playoffs. However, the one question that I do have is their defense. I thought that they were, again, too passive, against Garrett Gilbert. And, you can't have, you're not going to be able to, if Garrett Gilbert's moving the football, and you could have major problems if you're trying to, squeak in the playoffs against some of those playoff caliber quarterbacks.
Let's talk about Hurts. That's one of our big topics during the State of the Eagles tomorrow. Do we have a definitive answer? Do you have a feeling on what you would do with Hurts moving forward? Are you ready to give him another year? Are you ready to move on? Are these last 3 games going to help you formulate that opinion? Where do you stand on the quarterback?
Well, what I think is, it's become a microwave society. Everybody wants instantaneous results right away. And some players you see that with, and some players take a little bit of time. And I think with Jalen Hurts, you're seeing a player who's made incremental improvements throughout the season. You would like to see what he can do with another season of the same coaching staff in place, and see if he's able to work on some of the areas that need improvement. But right now, Mike, if I'm the Eagles, I'm going into the next season with Jalen Hurts, and I'm using that draft capital to start to stockpile that and rebuild that defense that really does not have a whole lot of building blocks right now.
We're on the same page there. And it's not that I'm saying that Hurts has to be the guy for the next 5 to 10 years. It's, hey, I'm giving him another year. And I love talking draft stuff with you, Andrew, and it's like, the draft. I don't know how much studying you've done on this particular class, but I just don't love a quarterback in this class. And I find like so many teams go down this road. They draft a quarterback because they're in a certain spot in the draft. We have the 3rd pick. We don't know when we're going to get 3rd again, so we got to take a guy here. Or they reach for a guy. It's like, hey, we got to take a quarterback just to take a quarterback. And I feel like the good teams, they got their quarterbacks because they fell to them. Aaron Rodgers falls to you. Okay, I'm going to take him. I'm not going to do anything crazy, but I'm going to take him if he's there. And I feel like the Eagles, because they have the 3 picks, there's going to be that temptation to take a guy just because they might be there. And that's why I hope they are listening to what you're saying, and to what I'm saying is I think Hurts deserves another year and continue to build this team out. So what do you think about this year's draft class in terms of the quarterback? I don't know how much you've done the study in there, but would you take one just to take one?
No, absolutely not. I mean, none of these players are surefire, solid plug-and-play starters, first-rounder. Draft them in the first round, right where the Eagles are going to be taking. I mean, that would be an immense reach if they were to do that, and that would set the franchise back years doing something like that, when you're going to have top-end pass rushers, a safety, I don't even want to say linebacker because that's not going to be an area that they're going to invest a first-round pick in. But there's going to be a lot of areas, Mike, to really bolster your defense, and that's really what they need. If you're going to go into next season with Jonathan Gannon again, which I believe that they will and they should, well, let's see if he can get some pieces to work with here and then see what his scheme is really going to look like.
Yeah, I know Kenny Pickett. He's the guy that everybody seems to like. He had 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in his 5th year. Well, you go back to his last couple of years, he had 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions for 2 straight years. And it's like, I don't feel that I'm going to replace the guy I have who's shown me a lot of promise. The growth to me, Andrew, you can see the growth in his progressions. You can see the growth in the way he's kind of seeing the field. I think you saw a much more patient passer in the game on Tuesday night. Sorry, my days are all messed up because of the game on Tuesday. But I thought you saw a much more patient guy. I thought you saw him look guys off. I don't think he was as skittish on Tuesday night.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he showed some maturity from the pocket, being able to hang in there when earlier in the season he would have been quick to bolt out of there and pick up yards with his legs. I thought he looked to the middle of the field more than we've seen him do. I thought he looked guys off. I thought he allowed routes to develop. And, maybe that, who knows, maybe those 3 weeks away really gave him an opportunity to really assess. Because sometimes when you're in the moment, you're not able to really process and correct those flaws. But you had 3 weeks to really take a step back, watch another quarterback play, watch more film, and really dig into the fundamentals and get down to the foundation of where your deficiencies lie. And I think that Jalen Hurts came out of that bye week, and he looked a lot more refined as a passer, and just little different nuances to his game looked a lot more mature, I would say.
That's an excellent point, that he's standing on the sidelines. He's getting a chance to see things that maybe he is not doing well when he plays, and while he's observing, he can kind of, let the game slow down for him a little bit. That's something that's not afforded to many of these quarterbacks, and I feel like, Zach Wilson, number 2 overall, he gets thrown into a situation where I don't know if he's getting the right development, the right coaching. He just looks like a guy who is in way over his head. You look at Justin Fields, looks like the same thing. It looks like he's just out there kind of improvising as the game goes on. Hurts doesn't look like that. He looks like he belongs. Those guys look like they're just making it up on the fly.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Those guys aren't really going to be able to correct their issues in season because it's every week you're prepping for the next game. There's not a whole lot of time to dive into the film and break things down and get with your coaches. So you are sort of learning on the fly, learning on the job, essentially. And I think you rarely have any kind of downtime to really assess where your deficiencies lie. And I think in Jalen Hurts' case, it just so happened that he missed that Jets game, and then the layover there. 3 weeks he didn't see the field. So I think that really afforded him an opportunity to really take a step back, process what was going on, and everything started to slow down for him a little bit. I mean, I'm just trying to rationalize, but why you saw a little bit of maturity and a growth in him that we saw on Tuesday night, and I think that has a lot to do with it.
All right, Andrew, one of the other things, obviously the offensive line. I mean, they've just been absolutely dominant. And the performance that they had, we were a little concerned. No Dickerson. Opeta jumps in. First off, give us a little insight on what you saw from Opeta and why, how is this line able to be as dominant as they are? Some of the numbers on the rushing attack this team has put together have just been unbelievable. So, kind of give us some insight. I was talking to Moshe about this earlier, and is Stoutland that good? Like, can he just take any random guy? I mean, does Roseman do a good job of identifying talent? Is it a combination of two? Why is the offensive line so dominant?
Well, I think it's a mixed bag. I think that you can't just can't throw anybody out there and expect them to be productive NFL starters. So I think that you have to give Roseman a little bit of credit there as far as identifying talent. And then, of course, Jeff Stoutland is molding these players into being competent NFL starters or guys that can step in and fill in adequately in the absence of these starters. And in the case of Opeta, he was a highly coveted undrafted free agent, right? I mean, he was on the cusp of being drafted, and he put up great numbers at the combine, was a tackle, but an undersized tackle in college, and then he transitions to guard here. Very strong inside, very athletic, and I think that really showed on Tuesday night. He had a really tough assignment against Jonathan Allen, and I thought he really stood tall in the face of adversity, and I think that's a testament to Sua Opeta, of course, but also Jeff Stoutland for preparing him and getting him ready for this opportunity.
Yeah, and one thing I thought, too, is that just because they had a backup, really the fourth guard, I guess he's the third left guard. They're under their fourth right guard over there with Herbig. You've had Driscoll. You had Dickerson over there. You had Brooks over there. They're on, like, their fourth set of guards here, and yet it doesn't seem to deter the play call. Last year they had to change the play call. They had to scale back the playbook because of the injuries on the offensive line. It was such a mess. But it seems that they trust these guys to do what they need to do, because I actually thought the playbook looked a lot more creative on Tuesday night. And you saw a lot more motion and a lot more wrinkles in the run game.
Well, it also helps to have Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson there as stabilizing presences on the offensive line. Having those guys there who are pretty much the pillar and the mainstays there allows everything to sort of run in a cohesive manner. And I think that those guys have been a constant presence pretty much all season, and the guys around them, and they just elevate the play of those around them. And I think that a lot of it speaks to just having just their veteran presence and their ability, but also some of these young players that have really stepped up and adjusted to the blocking schemes and what's being asked of them, and they're able to execute without any sort of hindrance on the offense.
By the way, Jalen Hurts, for those of you, we were talking a little bit about him earlier. He was an alternate for the Pro Bowl. Also, Jason Kelsey going to the Pro Bowl. Darius Slay going to the Pro Bowl. I think Hargrave and Elliott were also alternates for the Pro Bowl as well. So those are the guys for the Eagles going to the Pro Bowl. And then you look on the other side of the team they're playing this week. No Giants going to the Pro Bowl. So let's dive into this matchup a little bit. This team is devoid of talent, and they are really devoid at the quarterback position here. We just talked about drafting and not reaching. Well, they reached for Daniel Jones, and it has not worked out for them, and they are in a desperate situation potentially this week with Jake Fromm at quarterback here. The Eagles' defense, as you just kind of chronicled, they didn't send a lot of pressure at Garrett Gilbert. I don't imagine they're going to do this. I think they're going to probably sit back again with Fromm and just say, hey, we're going to show you a different look. Do you anticipate a similar look from John Gannon this week against, I don't know, maybe even a less talented quarterback?
I don't know if I would consider Jake Fromm a less talented quarterback than Garrett Gilbert. He's played a lot more football, at least in college. He's played at a pretty high level there. He's very limited. He doesn't have the arm strength, but he's a smart guy. So, I mean, Jonathan Gannon's still going to test him, of course. But and you don't really know what you're going to get from Jake Fromm at the pro level. But I will say, based on his college resume, he's been a pretty productive player. But, I mean, still, he's very, very limited, and I don't know how the offense is really going to function with him back there as a signal caller when they really have been largely inept all season, and they're really absent of any kind of bona fide playmakers on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and the last time they played, it wasn't like the Giants' offense, was carving them up. They just couldn't get anything going offensively here. So let's look at that. What were some of the things that the Giants were able to do defensively that gave the Eagles some issues?
I thought that they got some hits on Jalen Hurts early, sort of caused him to have a little bit of hesitation as far as running the ball. And I thought that they did a really good job of taking away Devontae Smith and Dallas Goddard and forcing the other Eagles skill players to really beat them. And it proved that they couldn't. So I think that there's a lot of stress there on the Jalen Reagors of the world and Quez Watkins and those type of players to make plays. And I thought that the Giants did a really good job. Patrick Graham's a pretty solid defensive coordinator. But again, the Eagles are the more talented team. They just need to go out and execute. They really handed the Giants the game last time. Remember, the Giants weren't world beaters in that game by any stretch. The Eagles just have to play a competent game. You can't go in there flat like they sort of started that game against Washington, because the Giants can jump out to a lead. I mean, they do have Saquon Barkley and some other guys there. Evan Ingram is a good move tight end, but I mean, you can't take the team lightly. But I think that it all comes down to execution.
Yeah, and one area where we know the Eagles can execute, we did touch on their offensive line. You would imagine this is another week where, hey, let's use this offensive line and see if we can't just bully and push around this Giants front. Because, it feels like this late in the season, it's like just be, I don't want to say safe, but, take care of business. I thought they imposed their will against Washington. Follow suit in this game against the Giants. Just kind of impose your will and demoralize them, especially on the road. Well, they're going to be in Philly, obviously. I mean, for the Giants being on the road.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. I think that's the way to go. You have to attack, and you have to continue to do so. When you have a recipe, Mike, that's been so successful, it behooves you to stick with it, and really, I think in turn, it causes the whole offense to get into a rhythm, especially the quarterback. He's not pressing as much, and you have a dominant offensive line. You have a three-headed rushing attack. Why not lean on them and really ride it to victory? Because it's been a successful blueprint thus far.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4 from InsideTheBirds.com. I said yesterday, Dallas Goddard, and it sounds nuts to say because he's following the greatest tight end in the history of the franchise in Zach Ertz, but he actually might be a better player than Ertz. They're a little different. Ertz is more of a possession guy, good route runner, good hands, finds the soft spot in the zone, can move the sticks. But Goddard, since Ertz is gone, 15.7 yards a catch, better blocker, a little bit faster, breaks tackles. Do the Eagles actually have a better weapon in Goddard than they had in Ertz?
Yeah, the thing is with Goddard, the difference is Goddard's a game breaker. Goddard's the type of player that can win you games on one play. And he's someone that brings a physical element to the position. He's more athletic and physical than Zach Ertz is. Now, Zach Ertz is a better route runner, and I'm not taking anything away from Zach Ertz. He is a top-tier tight end still in the league right now. But I think when you're comparing the two guys, I mean, Goddard's the more gifted player, and he right now is the Eagles' top receiver, and he just gives them he's such a matchup problem for so many teams because he's too fast for linebackers and safeties, and he's too physical for corners. So how do you defend the guy? And I think now the Eagles are starting to see what a player of his caliber can really do and affect the game. And I think you're starting to see them feed him the ball a little bit more with regularity.
Yeah, and it's when you're looking at the decision on Hurts, it's now like, hey, I don't want to. It sounds like, hey, you have an elite tight end. I don't know if he's an elite tight end yet, but I think you have at least a Pro Bowl level tight end right there. That's part of building your offense. Okay, we have this weapon. We have a very good wide receiver here. So the pieces are starting to kind of materialize right in front of you, and that's one of the things when it goes back to our Hurts conversation, what you have with Goddard, what you have with Smith. And I want to get your opinion on when you were doing your draft coverage, what you thought Smith was going to be. Has that translated so far?
Yeah, I thought Smith was going to be a 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie, no matter where he went, because of his advanced route running prowess and he already had a pro level mindset. Mike, he was focused. There was not a lot of distraction with him, even at Alabama, and he was just always ready to go. And I think that when you have a young player like that, with that type of mindset, you know that they're going to transition well, and you never have to worry about the work ethic or the focus or the concentration. And he really stepped in seamlessly and became the Eagles' top receiver right out of the gate. And I really did. I thought that no matter where he went, to answer your question, that he was going to find success very early. And I think right now, the Eagles have to be really happy with their investment because he continuously gets better. His route running is precise, and I mean he keeps getting better, and he's a top target for Jalen Hurts, and they're building that continuity, and I think that's going to be a connection that's going to continue moving forward.
I'd like to see him have a big breakout game late here. Goddard has had two big games in a row, the Eagles and the Giants this Sunday. You can hear the game on 97.3 ESPN. Feels weird. They just played the other night. Right back at it, Andrew. They need it. Obviously can't slip up here. That Giant game they had the other day, 2 weeks ago, really look back at that. It could be the one that bounces them out if they end up tied with Minnesota. But do you think they have the kind of wherewithal to bounce back and win this game at home against an even more depleted Giant team?
Yeah, I do. I think they're starting to, like I said, they're starting to hit their stride at the right time. You could tell just based on the emotion that you saw the other night. Everyone's bought in. They know what, they know the state and what's at stake right now. And you have a lot of veterans that have been in the playoffs or played in, big games here. Jalen Hurts is the type of player that you even heard in the press conference with Miles Sanders. He said you can't joke around with Jalen. He's different than Gardner in that like he knows what's at stake. He's focused, and I think that everyone knows what they need to do if they want to get into the playoffs.
All right, there you go, Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast and InsideTheBirds.com. Eagles, if they get the win, they will match. They will double last year's win total with a win that will get them to 8-7. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Andrew. Always a pleasure catching up. I'm looking forward to draft conversation, especially with 3 picks. It's going to be a lot of fun, but still meaningful December football, and I guess that's more than we thought at the beginning of the year.
Yes, sir. Hey, Merry Christmas to you, Mike, Josh, and all the listeners out there. I appreciate everything.
Andrew DiCecco, everybody, here on Football at 4.